Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV. And yes, that's right. We're going to have a very good look at the key points of helming on the trapeze. I know that for a lot of sailors, helming on the trapeze can be a very big step. So I'm going to try to make it a lot more manageable. We're going to look at reducing the risk of losing control, so that you stay in control of the boat at all times. And then the main thing that we're going to be looking at is how we can make helming on the trapeze as easy as possible. When you're putting the trapeze harness on, the most important straps to have tight are the straps which hold the hook itself. You need to get these really tight so that the hook, when you pull it, doesn't come away from your body. That means it's going to be a lot more positive and it's not going to dunk you into the water. At this stage, I would recommend considering upgrading to a quick release hook. We can look at the trapeze height. The higher up you put your trapeze, the easier it is going to be to move in and out. By moving the trapeze line higher, it means you're much less likely to get hit by waves as you're moving out, and when you drop your buttocks over the edge, you're not going to be dropping as low down, and it is going to make it a lot easier. And then the other thing we can do before we go out on the water is do some practice on land as well. So before we look at going out on the trapeze, the first thing we want to do is make the boat as stable as possible. This is generally going to mean sailing on a close hauled course where you've got plenty of water in front of you. You're not going to have to change tack too soon, and with a nice amount of power on. So pull the main sheet in until you've got a nice amount of power, so you can just control the power by using small changes to the steering. Feet under the tow strap. We're going to take the tiller extension, clamp it on the beam, working our way out. And we can just hang there for as long as you like. You could just sail in this position if you want. You could put the tiller extension on your shoulder, and that's a good intermediate position if you don't feel ready to move out onto the trapeze, or perhaps there's not enough wind. And then from there, foot on the side, pushing out. Again, the wider you have your feet apart, the more stable you'll feel. When we're moving out into this position, you can consider the forwards backwards movement on the boat. If you move more towards the back of the boat, that's effectively going to shorten your trapeze wire further, making it even easier, and you're less likely to come unhooked, and you're not going to get dropped as much down as you go over the edge. If you're ready to go out without using your hands at all, then this is good because you stay in control of the boat a bit more. So we'll get in this position again, hanging, but we're not clamping this time. And this way we're going to go out back foot first if we're not using the clamping technique. Then for coming back in, better to get on a very stable point of sail first. So even if you've been going for a speed run, it's nice to head back to your upwind point of sail, get the boat nice and stable, and then from there we're going to put the main sheet in your stick hand, but we're going to have the main sheet uncleated. Grab as far down the stick as you can manage, and then from there you can grab the trapeze handle with your front hand, pull yourself up on the handle, at the same time slide either your back or front foot onto the trampoline, and then at the same time you're going to be just bending your arm, really focusing on keeping the boat going in a straight line as we're coming in. If we get too much wind or the hull starts to lift, we have got the ability to ease main sheet just by releasing the pressure in your fingers, and then coming back in, tidy up first, main sheet out of the cleat, hold as far down the tiller extension as you can reach, and then in we go. We're just pulling up, and there we are. Steering the boat as you're going out. So to overcome this problem, get into that half trapezing position and just get comfortable there. Once you're ready to push out, just really focus on the steering. You just have to shift your focus. One thing that can help with this is to do a bit more practice on land, so you don't actually have to think about how you are stepping out onto the trapeze as much. The clamping technique, of course, is going to help greatly to reduce the steering as well. So perhaps consider that if you're not using that technique. Getting hit by waves as you're sliding out over the edge, this can be caused for 3 reasons. One is that your trapeze harness hook isn't tight enough. 2 is that your trapeze line is too long, or you might be trying to go out too far forwards. And then the 3rd reason this might be happening is you just haven't quite got enough power on the boat. What we're looking for with the power is just to have the windward hull slightly lifting, not actually coming out, but just so you can feel that that side of the boat is higher, and that should be enough to keep you clear of the waves, the chop, or just the water. And then if you're coming unhooked while you're sliding out, that's pretty much the same as the previous problem. Just shorten your trapeze wire a little bit, or as you're moving out, if you want to trapeze lower, just take your front hand, push the handle away from you. That's going to tighten the trapeze wire up against your hook, meaning that you're very unlikely to come unhooked as you slide out. If you're out on the trapeze and you're bearing away from the wind, don't bear away too hard, because doing so can send you flying away from the side of the boat, which can cause an absolutely hilarious capsize. All bearaways should be subtle and keeping control of the rudders at all times. Is it likely that you'll capsize to windward if you go out on the trapeze without enough wind? It's not so likely unless you're sailing something very narrow and lightweight like an A-class, but with something like a 16, if you do go out on the trapeze when there's not enough wind to lift the hull slightly, what's more likely to happen is you get dragged around the back by the water, which might actually end up with you capsizing backwards. If the wind's light and only one person is able to trapeze some of the time, then that should be the crew who's moving in and out more frequently. If there's enough wind for one person to be out all of the time, then perhaps that could be the helm. If there's enough wind for both to be out on the trapeze, then both people should be looking to get out as soon as possible. But it should be the crew who does the majority of the moving in and out. We should always be looking to keep the boat completely level, which means when we're sailing upwind, our position on the trapeze wants to be further forwards. On a reach or on a broad reach, we need to move further back. The amount you move back will depend on the wind, as the stronger the wind is, the more the bows are going to want to go down. So if there's less wind and you're sailing on a reach, you could get a bit further forwards, but then if you sail into a gust, you then want to move backwards to prevent the bows from dipping. It's always good to be a little bit further back than optimal when it's really windy, because you might not be fast enough moving back in a sudden gust. To add traction to the side of the boat, there are a number of things that you can do. The most basic thing you can do doesn't look very nice, but you can use some surfboard wax. Better
is to stick some rubber grip or grip tape to the side of your boat. And then if there's a position where your feet are always going, especially further back, you can fit foot straps, which give you a very good sense of security.
So then, as promised, some special tips for 14 or 16 sailors. The way that we have the raised trampoline on these boats means that you can go out without having to get your knee up round your ear quite as much by going out back foot first and actually stepping the back foot down onto the hull, which makes it very, very easy to get out. There is a popular technique among Hobie 16 and 14 sailors, which is to go out off the knees. So we start off on the knees with our feet hanging over the edge, and then we roll out backwards, pushing the handle away to stay hooked on. Both feet go down onto the hull, and then we step up onto the sidebar. Okay, so if you want to look at the entire process, you can check that out just here. And then if you're already trapezing on the helm, but maybe you're having some problems with coordinating the main sheet and the tiller extension, maybe the rope's going in the water quite a lot, then check out this one here.